evening. Welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. We are on week 3, part 2 of our monthly counsel session, Desperation versus Lifestyle. And the subtopic this week has been a learned thing. So it's a learned thing. Okay, so let's move on. I want to move on to my website disclaimer. This is an open forum. So if you have any questions or if you want to share any life scenarios, I will pause and I will give highlight to it. And then I will answer questions to the best of my knowledge. If there's something that I can't think of off the top of my head, I'll research it and I'll get back to you, put it in the comment section. All right, so let's go to our website disclaimer. Please be aware that due to the nature of the technology I'm using, there can be no assurance of confidentiality when using this online service. It should also be noted that due to changes in policies, that all replies are to be used as advisory and informational only and will not constitute an official determination. Information provided by myself are subject to the limitations of current and available material, but the final responsibility for successfully achieving a goal rests with you, the individual. Information online is designed to be helpful. However, this information does change frequently, and it is recommended that clients consult another physician, specialist, and or religious leader to aid you in your overall behavioral wellness. Okay, so I'm a Christian counselor. I acquired my degrees from Ashford University, and my bio is I have 2 separate degrees. My first one, major one, is in psychology, and the other one is organizational management. And so my great passion is bringing healing to people who have been through traumatic or stressful life experiences. And when we are, as humans, when we experience trauma or severe life stresses, it is not uncommon for us to feel like that our life is unraveling. So I help clients who include children, adults, and family members to find healthy perceptions of themselves and to help strengthen their relationships so they can know themselves as peaceful. They can know themselves as complete, whole, and safe. All right, so let's jump in because I have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. Again, I'm a Christian degree counselor. And so my scripture for the month is from Luke 12:48. It says, to whom much is given, much is required. All right. So I'm not going to pass on through the definition. And let's move to our key points. I'm going to magnify it. And okay, so key point number 1 is research on learned helplessness. Number 2 is 7 questions pertaining to learned helplessness. And number 3 is overcoming learned helplessness. 4 and 5, of course, is the takeaway and the quote. So let's dive in. Again, this is an open forum. If you have any questions or if you have any scenarios that you don't mind sharing, I will bring highlight to it. So this is called the research on learned helplessness. And we're going to piggyback once again off of Dr. Seligman, Dr. Martin from last night. So it says the term was coined in 1967, learned helplessness, by the American psychologist, Dr. Martin Seligman and Dr. Stephen Mayer. The pair were conducting research on animal behavior, which involved delivering electric shocks to dogs. Okay, I'm not a big fan of that, not at all. So dogs who learned that they couldn't escape the shock stopped trying in subsequent experiments, even when it became possible to avoid the shock by jumping over a barrier. The researchers later realized that they had picked up on a slightly different behavior, learning control. But studies have since confirmed that learned helplessness occurred with the experiment. And this experiment began in 1967. So every experiment that I'm going to talk about, every theory that I speak about is longitudinal. It is always 10 years or more older. All right, so this theory here, this study began in 1967, learned helplessness. So Dr. Seligman later, or Dr. Martin, later developed the concept of learned optimism. All right. So by explaining events to ourselves in a constructive mannerism and developing a positive internal dialogue, like you keep telling yourself, I can do this. I can do this. I know I can. I know I can. People can break free from their cycles of helplessness, because the first thing is so easy. The first thing that comes to our mind is to down yourself, to say, oh man, I'm so, people say I'm so dumb, I can't do this. No. Learned optimism. We can counteract that. We can retrain our brains. No, I know I can do this. Or as a Christian, I can do all things through Christ. As a Christian, that's what we say. All right, so people can break free from their cycles of helplessness. Dr. Martin and Dr. His partner was saying. So number one, let's move this along. Let me move to this slide. I'm gonna open this really quick. All right, and let's close it back. The first question is, how do we learn to be helpless? And I talked about this last night. I gave a really good example. Oh, hey, Sister Shirley. I gave a very good example last night about years ago when I was doing a show it was in Madison Square Garden to be exact. And I ran into, those of y'all that are familiar with a rapper, the rappers Wu-Tang and Method Man and RZA and ODB at the time when he was alive. I remember that ODB was coming off stage and he was walking down the hallway. We were walking to go get on the stage, and I was able to talk to him for a little bit because we had a slight pause. So I asked him, I said, why do you call yourself, ODB stands for Old Dirty Bastard. And I said, why do you call yourself that? He said to me, my mama called me Old Dirty Bastard, so I'm an Old Dirty Bastard. And I looked at him and I shook my head and I said, no, you're not, sir. And I said, no, sir, no, you're not. And then it was time for me to get on stage. And I remember he stopped and he turned around and he looked at me like a light bulb went off in his head, like, I'm not. And unfortunately, he died. ODB died not too long after that. But, if he was able to live longer and to start realizing that no, he was not what his mama named him or what his mother tried to stipulate him, that he could have lived and been something other than that label that was placed on him from his own mom, Okay, so how do we learn to be helpless? Seligman subjected study participants to loud, unpleasant noises. He did experiments in 1967 using a lever that would or would not stop the sounds. So the group whose lever wouldn't stop the sounds in the first round stopped trying to silence the noise after a while. Not trying leads to apathy and powerlessness. And this can lead to all or nothing thinking. So nothing I do matters. This is the things that people start telling themselves. I always lose. This phenomenon exists in so many animal species as well as in humans, is what Dr. Martin was saying. Number two, how does helplessness relate to addictions? Okay, because we're going to cover all of this ground. Sister Shirley said, God bless you too, Sister Shirley. How does helplessness relate to addictions? People who suffer from addictions often feel a certain helplessness. So they are powerless and they're overwhelmed, or they feel that they're powerless and they're overwhelmed by the pull of their substance of choice. And their helplessness fuels the cycle. So in fact, engaging in the addictions may ameliorate the sufferer's feelings of helplessness. So they feel like it's making them feel better. And diffuse the feeling of powerlessness. Perhaps the addiction set aside anxiety or depression or anger. I remember hearing different artists say years ago that they have to drink something before they get on stage, or they smoke something or they snort something before they get on stage, because it gives them a sense of where it takes away the jitters, the nervousness, and it gives them a sense of courage or anything like that. So helplessness, a feeling of helplessness, a lot of times it is direct communication or direct line with addictions. Number three is learned helplessness related to feeling like a victim? Is learned helplessness related to feeling like a victim? So sometimes victimhood could feel like a never-ending state. This person never feels in control of their life. And this loss of control is compounded as time goes on. They are powerless and they engage in negative self-talk, putting the self down and having no self-worth whatsoever. So being helpless can get the victim what they need, namely sympathy and attention. and which is I call the biggest con, one of the biggest cons out there. A victim or a victim-minded person, someone that comes across as a victim. Oh, a victim always needs a hero, right? So that's a con in a way, because you don't have to be responsible for your actions. You don't have to be responsible for the things that you do. You don't have to be responsible even for even your thought pattern or how you can turn it around or anything. Because as a victim, somebody is going to rise to the occasion and be your hero. Okay, that is one of the biggest cons out there. Everybody has their own walk in life. Everybody goes through trauma and stresses, but it's how we come through it, how we decide to pull through this stuff. Sometimes it takes longer than others to get through a traumatic state, like for instance experiencing death or something like that, but eventually we do have to overcome it. We can't tell people, like in this instance with death, we can't tell people how to grieve, how long they should grieve. But what we can say is that we have to continue to live and continue to move on. And we got to take it one step at a time. No, we'll never forget that loved one. We'll never forget them. Never, ever. They will always have special places in our lives and our hearts. But we have to live and we have to move on, because that individual honestly would want us to continue to live and to be happy. All right. And to be prosperous in our lifetime. So number 3 said is learned helplessness related to feeling like a victim. Yes, it is. Number 4, are self-absorbed people more helpless? And there are more self-absorbed people out there than not. Are self-absorbed people more helpless? And so Dr. Martin says that they can be. Perhaps as children, their parents did everything for them, and they happily carry this helplessness into adulthood. They expect others to do everything for them. The self-absorbed never did their chores and enjoyed adulation and praise in their younger years. Why should they put in the effort now? So, like Dr. Martin said, yes, they can be in certain cases. Yes, self-absorbed people can display learned helplessness. Yes, they can. All right. So number 5, and let me move this slide along. Let's move this slide along. I'm gonna open it up. All right, let's close it. Question number 5. What is adult entitled dependency? So the well-known term failure to launch is a reality for many parents. The adult child is not interested in college, unable to land gainful employment, and appears to be in a state of inertia. So they are fully dependent on their parents. Some researchers use the term adult entitled dependence, or AED, to describe this phenomenon. So the adult child may suffer problems such as anxiety and depression. And in some cases, the adult child blames the parents for their dysfunction. I can't even remember the name of this movie, but there was a movie I saw years ago. Zac Efron, I believe I'm saying his name wrong. Zac Efron. He was one of the main characters in it. He played the son, and he had a mom. He lived at home, fully adult, in his 30s, full adult, living at home with his mom. And his mother, her whole life, even as an adult, was just centered around taking care of her adult son. He was really ridiculous. He had a very, very, very minimal job. I think he was working at a record store, or at the time, and that was a while back ago, because the record stores don't even exist hardly anymore. But he was working for a record store in a little small town, making little to no money, which he could care less because he wasn't paying bills anyway. Still sleeping in the same bedroom that he grew up in. Room was a mess. Didn't clean, didn't cook, didn't do anything. And just was a whole and suffered from depression, what he said. Any man that was interested in his mother, he ran the man off. It got to the point to where the mother just gave up. It was a man who really was, he really just fell in love with this guy's mom. And this guy did everything in his willpower to chase this guy off, to make the mom feel like that something was wrong with him, and no, she shouldn't, because he did not want the mother's attention off of him. This is what Dr. Martin is talking about. And it got to the point to where it worked in the movie. The guy finally left and walked away. He said, forget about it. He walked away. And then the mom went into a severe depression behind it. She went into a severe, and so in order for the son realized that he was ruining his mother's life by being so selfish, self-absorbed, and adult entitled dependence. And he was trying to help get his mother out of it. He started cleaning the house. He went and found a better job, but nothing he did worked. His mother was in a severe depression behind years and years and years and years of him doing this and everything. So finally he went and begged that man. He said, please, I will move out. He apologized. I was wrong. He said, but I don't. He said, my mother has just totally given up. He said, and I can't. He said, it's my fault. And the guy said, it is your fault. He said, it is your fault, because he said, your little game, it worked and it was terrible. He said, you not only ran me away, but you ruined your mother's life, her happiness. And so he eventually he moved out. And he got the man to come back so the mom could have a life of her own. And it took that. Thank God he learned from that. Thank God. But this adult entitled dependence right here, this is what Dr. Martin is talking about. The well-known term failure to launch. Okay, where the child is just not interested in anything. Adult entitled independence or dependence, excuse me. All right, so and then the adult child blaming the parent for their dysfunction, like they had nothing to do, with it. And when you hear people use excuses, adults use excuses for the way that they are. Well, depression runs in my family. When they say addiction runs in my family, this is why I'm the way I am. Insanity, mental instability runs in my family. When people can go about and say stuff like that, that sounds more deliberate than anything. If you can make a statement like that, then you can turn around and you can change whatever that is. Now, yes, it's going to be steps to it, but you can make a change, that choice. You can make a change for the better. If you can open up your mouth and word, well, this runs in my family, that's why I'm the way I am, then you can say, but because this runs in my family, this is why I'm going to fight to be this way. I'm going to continue to counteract certain things so I don't wind up like that. Okay, that's that adult entitled dependence mindset. Number 6, does over-parenting lead to helplessness in children? The concept may also manifest in educational settings when children feel they cannot perform well and therefore stop trying to improve. The experience is characterized by 3 main features. Number 1, a passive response to trauma, not believing that trauma can be controlled, and stress. And when parents do everything for their kids, helplessness can follow. Kids do not learn to take care of themselves and they lose personal agency. A good example of helplessness, when parents do their children's chores for them, when parents do their homework for them, this is encouraging helplessness in their children. And it's going to lap over into their adult years. So number 6 was, does overparenting lead to helplessness in children? Yes, it does. Number 7, is learned helplessness linked to depression and anxiety? So in the real world, learned helplessness can emerge from and contribute to depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. During a depressive episode, for instance, someone may believe that nothing will end their suffering, so they stop seeking help completely. So when a person experiences high self-efficacy and independence, they also enjoy better health outcomes. All right? So, yes, Is learned helplessness linked to depression and anxiety? Yes, it is linked. There's a link there. All of those are all connected and attached to each other. Yes. All right. So let's move into overcoming learned helplessness, because anything we can overcome anything. Overcoming learned helplessness. Here we go. So Dr. Martin says that learned helplessness typically manifests as a lack of self-esteem, low motivation, a lack of persistence, the conviction of being inept, and ultimately failure. So it is more common for people who have experienced repeated traumatic events such as childhood neglect and abuse or domestic violence. So when we're helpless, we have no control over our lives. Our actions are futile. Nothing will change. So why bother? This is what the mindset is. So in this mindset, change seems unfeasible. However, it is always possible to take action. It's always possible to take action. We just have to be open to the possibilities. That's it. So now we're going to say A. A says, I feel stuck and helpless in my relationships. What can I do? Here's the questions. Move this along. And I'm going to open this up so you can see the questions. A, this is the question here. Someone asking Dr. Martin at the time, saying, I feel stuck and helpless in my relationship. What can I do? Well, people who feel stuck in a relationship sometimes give up. Like I just gave the example, because relationship is not always between, in a partnership type of relationship. You have, siblings, you have mom and mother and children, father and children, those type of things. So people who feel stuck in relationships sometimes give up. They're unable to improve or work on their relationships, and they're also unable to end it. So sometimes a partner can feel that they invested a lot in the union, and moving on doesn't feel right. Yet fixing the problem seemed just as daunting. Instead, they slide into a state of helplessness. What is the point? What's the point in trying? But like Dr. Martin says, okay, it's yes, you can. It's a change. It's going to be a change period. Always being in a relationship with this person, and then making the decision that I'm going to move it along, and I'm going to go on, and I'm going to move forward with my life and try something different. Someone just posted something on social media early today, and they were being very candid, and I'm so proud of them for doing that. And young lady, and they were saying that they want to have love in their lives again. But due to their first marriage was so traumatic, so they're afraid to put themselves back out there. And so I just did I felt so compelled. So I just did a quick statement. And I said, the next time the person is going to see the jewel that you are and appreciate you. And so, don't be afraid to open your heart to love again. And that's like this, just like Dr. Martin. This question came to Dr. Martin. I'm feeling stuck and helpless in a relationship. That person could have felt stuck and helpless and stayed there, but they did not. They got out of it because it was toxic. And now they're to the point where they're ready to move on. And yes, there's some reservations and some fears that may be there, but by all means, don't let that stop you from opening up your heart. Again, and don't let it stop you from making the decision. You know what? I'm just going to move it along, and I'm just going to pick myself up by the bootstraps, and I know that things are going to get better for me. B, how can I learn to be less helpless? This was a question that came across with Dr. Martin. People can push back against learned helplessness by practicing independence. It doesn't matter what age. It helps, if you can do it at a young age. But guess what? There's no age limit here. You just make a choice, and all you have to do is cultivate the resilience, your self-worth and self-compassion, engaging in activities that will restore your self-control and can also be valuable. For example, an elderly person who feels helpless in the aging process can engage in small exercises that they know will restore a sense of control. A dance class always works. Like I said, I started a line dance class. It's on Thursday nights. It's for an hour and a half. And It's not a hip hop class. It's nothing like that. But the line dance class for an hour and a half, I'm getting it in. I'm learning 6 or 7 different line dances. And I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it. So that's just a small example. How can you learn how to be less helpless? Taking small steps towards counteracting the things that you commonly would do. Start doing the opposite of it. And I'm talking about in a positive way. Start doing the opposite of it. So that's how you can do it. Now let's move on to C. Can therapy help the helpless? Dr. Martin, and I'm saying it as well, your brain wants to deal with failure by giving up. That's just, like I said, automatic thing, to give up. Yet therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, that's what I specialize in. Okay, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, can be helpful for exploring the origins of perceived helplessness and addressing related behaviors. All right. Working with a therapist may help you unlearn and decondition yourself. Okay, a clinician may help you to change your thinking style from pessimism to optimism. And you can do this perhaps by reframing situations and outcomes in a more positive light. So, yes, I'm going to say yes, therapy definitely does help you feel less helpless. So, let's move on to our takeaway for this evening. I'm going to turn around and reiterate something I just read. And I'm going to reiterate what I read last night's takeaway, because it was so impactful. Learned helplessness is not a life sentence. We must remember that nothing is eternal. Even if passing through a bad time, everything does seem gray. Change occurs when we begin to become conscious. We rebuild our self-esteem and find new meanings to life so that we can gradually recover our power. So people with learned helplessness can overcome it. The most common treatment is therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which helps people overcome these types of challenges by changing how they think and act, which is mean you're retraining your brain. So that is our takeaway for this evening. All right, let's look at our quote. All right, I'm gonna close it up. Let's look at our quote. The quote says, "Selfishness is the biggest form of helplessness, as it makes the person blind so much that he fails to search for his true self or her true self, for being always in the lurch." Okay, selflessness is the biggest form of helplessness. All right, so let's move on to this, and I'm going to open this so you can see this, because we are coming to the end of it. I did it on time, 30 minutes tonight. I'm so proud of myself. So if you want a safe space to speak with a licensed professional online, BetterHelp offers an affordable counseling sessions for individuals, couples, and family members. BetterHelp.com. They'll give you a 45-minute to a 1-hour session. You can call, you can be on the phone with them, or you can do a Zoom. It doesn't matter. You can do it visually or audibly. I believe it's anywhere from $50 to $59. It's very affordable. And I don't believe that there's a long-term contract that you have to sign. If you just need to talk something out like one time and call, just go on and do it. It's a safe space. It's licensed, degreed counselors and clinicians. And it will help you move and move through whatever, if you're feeling uncomfortable, whatever type of uncomfortable state that you may be experiencing, it'll help you move through it and give you strategies to coping strategies. All right, so let's move this along. Let me open this up for my fellow theorists and clinicians. This is where my studies came from this week. All right. And let's move this on. So if there's a past Counsel of the Day with Shanrae series that you missed, or you just want to rewatch, you can go to my YouTube channel at Shanrae Price. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. Then select any past series that you would like to watch. All right. And here we go. So if you are interested in professional one-on-one counseling, I am a degree counselor. You can contact me via my Facebook Messenger at Shanrae_. Owens, or you can email me at Shanrae@gmail.com. I'm a lifestyle strategist, and my aim is to aid you in your life's goals and your life's dreams. So this has been Counsel of the Day, week 3 for with Shanrae, and I will see you all Sunday night, this next Sunday night, and then Tuesday. And that is going to conclude, that's going to be week 4. That's going to conclude this month's Counsel of the Day with Shanrae. So again, it's going to be split for week 4. It's going to be Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, then Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, because Monday is Memorial Day, and I don't want to interrupt anyone's holiday, or I don't want to interrupt mine. All right, thank you for joining me on this evening for this week 2, part 2. My studies came from Dr. Martin. Okay, and y'all can look on here. Enjoy your evening. See you Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye.